We at it again. What's going on, people? We back. We back in the building. Money Monday. One more time again for your mind. Check it out like MC rhymes. All right, so back again. Money Monday. All right, we're gonna talk about some things. For the most part, let's just start with a job. The opportunity right now for a lot of people to either get another job or just kind of do what they want to do, sacrificing that time for money issue is up to you. You know, personally, I was just talking to somebody this weekend, and they quit their job and was like, "Man, job was stressful, but life is still good. I can drive for Uber, DoorDash, all these gig apps." And I was telling them, I was like, man, there's several gig apps that you can get onto that, what's going on, boss lady, that you can actually still make money and be secure in your job. I mean, be secured in your finance because let's face it, having a 9 to 5 is automatic security because you work, you get a paycheck. But the gig apps, you got to put in the work to get a paycheck, even though it's still a secure thing because if you have a steady work habit, just like you do at a regular job, you can afford to get paid, handsomely well. Just all about your work ethic, how much time you put in. Lisa J. Stock, what's going on? And it's all about the time you put in to actually make that paycheck for yourself. So, you know, me and him was talking, and I was telling him over different apps, Upwork, Fiverr. If you know how to do certain things, you can get on there and make money. And it's like I told him, just not letting these jobs hold you back is the key. And I've always, it's been a running joke. Been on YouTube, even with my friends, that I always say I'm my own boss, even though I work a 9 to 5 at a company because I can always just jump up and quit and go somewhere else, you know. And we was, talking about the situation like these jobs don't give you 2 week notice when they fire you. Oh, it's breaking up a bit. Okay, let me reset it and make sure everything's set up. Okay. Yeah, I do see it's kind of low on my end. Is it still breaking up now? Yeah, maybe the mic might have to come back in then. Is it coming in clear now? I don't know. It might be just the area I'm in, but for the most part, though, we were sitting there talking about how every time you go and deal with a job will literally fire you without a 2 week notice. But they're telling you if you want to quit, put in a 2 week notice because that's the proper thing to do. It gives them time to find another employee that you can train or they can replace in your position. And so, for the most part, by you being a good employee and, coming to work all the time, standing pretty much as they say on business, you know, hey, you should be rewarded for all your time and energy putting into that company. And a lot of times, companies, they really don't value their good employees until they're gone. You know, prime example, one of the companies I used to work at, when I quit the job, I actually put in a 2 week notice, and at the end of that 2 week, it was on a Friday. I told him, I said, "Man, I was just playing. I'll be back to work on Monday." And everybody laughed, and it was funny. And then come Monday, I didn't come back. They were asking, "Well, where you at?" I was like, "I actually quit." They was kind of offended by it because, like I said, I was a good employee there, and it kind of caught them off guard. And it was more like a last minute scramble, even though I put in my 2 week notice. It was more of a last minute scramble to find somebody to actually, you know, cover my routes, deal with the customers I dealt with, but it was a thing that they did. Jay Mia, what's going on with you? And it was a thing to where, a lot of these jobs, they kind of, micromanage things. They kind of nitpick at things. But like I said, ultimately, it's just for them to actually be to a point to where they can, be overbearing to kind of keep you in line or keep you in a place to a degree in which they want you to be in. But then, like I say, as you being a good employee, you know your value and know your worth, you can just go to any job and make it yours. And that's the thing. A lot of times these jobs, what's going on, Big Rooster in the building, a lot of times these jobs they critique and micromanage because they want to have control over their employees. They want to make sure they keep you needing them versus the opposite. Because a good employee ultimately, that that company needs that good employee. It helps them, makes them look good. The good employees are always the ones that go out and get the work. The good employees are always the ones that you know make the sacrifice for the team, the greater of the team. That's why I was telling the guy, doing the gig apps is not tough. You put in the result, you put in the work, you get the results of your pay. Same rule applying the thumb of, you know, if you're at that regular job, you putting in the work, you getting paid. So like I told him, he was gonna be all right. I said, quit this job, get into something else. Until then, you can always do the gig apps. And they were thinking about going back to trade school, doing something. And like I told him, hey, that's an option too. Up your skills, get you a higher paying job, better position. It's all pending on you. A lot of times, these companies try to make you feel like this is the dead end. Stay here for 20 years. A lot of older generations they always talk about having a career at a job for 20 years, which is a good thing. But if you're not valued the way you're supposed to be at a company, it's okay to leave. It's okay to find something else. You'll see someone stay here for 5 years, stay here for 3 years. I mean, a lot of times when companies see my resume, they see the first company I was with them from over at least 15 years before I got in the career and getting into other fields. But I was at that job for 15 years and they was like, wow, that's good. Then they see the spots where I work at this job or work at that job, and I tell them ultimately, it's just a value thing. When it come down to it, companies will value you to an extent, but they like to look at their bottom line, and it's more of a control thing. So it's up to you to stay at a job that you like or love. It's up to you to deal with the bosses or whomever that runs the company, managers that you see fit. Getting into the retirement. The crazy part is right now, what's a good age to retire? They say retire at 65. Most people are living longer. They have to work more because they didn't properly save enough money. They didn't go through 401k. They don't have any retirement funds or anything. So a lot of times they have to continue working. You know, any passive investments, that's the thing. You can still start now, but just knowing that all the things that you should have been doing at the younger years, it wasn't really your fault because you didn't know. That's why I try to talk more about money because some of these things gonna click now to make you be more interested in Sammy Joe, what's going on. You're gonna get older. And as you're getting older, what are the things you're gonna need when you get older to survive? you know and that's the more or less I'm trying to get people to focus on. you know you have a 401k. Do your company match your 401k? And if they do, are you maxing out? It's free money on the line. you know the old saying, rob Peter to pay Paul. Why you're not doing that with your finance? Why you're not getting to a point to where say, hey, if my company matches and I throw in an extra 100, And say if I have a spouse, I would tell my spouse, "Hey, honey, my company matches within the 401k, and they're going to be taking a little more money out of my account. This is greater for us when we retire long term. So if I need a little extra money for something, could you help me out? Contribute to this and that, or just hey, maybe tell them take a bill away from if you're doing the 50-50 split or whatever. But to a degree, looking at 401k as being an option because it's already coming out of your check. You're not even thinking about it because the first thing you see is your check. You're not, I mean, to a degree, most people don't look at their hourly wages, and that kind of is a bad thing because that's how most companies can take advantage of your pay because you're just looking at the end amount. And majority of the time, if your company pays you pretty much a fixed rate every month, like you get your same 40, you don't get overtime, cool. But the ones that actually get overtime and get compensation pay for things, always look at your check. Make sure you're getting paid the right amount because this some might be low as a quarter, then goes up to $5. You're not missing it because your check varies every week to the point where you're not even accounting for the penny by penny. Tamika, what's going on? And it gets to a point to where I've seen this in most cases where it's not a lot, but companies will take advantage of that. And if you ever get caught, they say, "Well, oh my bad, it was a mistake at this check, and we'll fix it on the next." You know, so value yourself by looking at your check, making sure you have enough money. I mean that you've been paid. I mean that you work for and need to be paid for. So another thing to look at, far as stocks, shout out to Lisa J Stocks, things that you can put your money into. So when you retire, hey, that's something that you can get your money out of and live on that. The best thing, in my opinion, just starting off, just my opinion, it's up to you. You do your research. Is a lot of times ETFs. ETFs are good. Stocks to invest in because the ETFs pretty much overall, in my opinion, just it's a slowly gradual gain, but you make your money there versus trying to invest in the one company like the S&P 500. They swap out stocks. I mean, it goes up and down, but gradually along the way, you're at a good standpoint of dealing with several companies that do good up and down versus dealing with one company, let's say like a Nike or something. Same thing with Tesla. Tesla got up to what, $1,200, then they did a reverse split. So seeing that Tesla's good, but you have to constantly be watching the market, constantly getting in there, making sure this is right, knowing when to get in, knowing when to get out, watching just very detailed about the market. But finding you something that you can invest your money in and actually see a return long term is the key. Because that's what you're using it for, mainly to what? Retire with, you know? And like I said, having a good time of when is it a great time for you to invest, or retire at that point? What will be the best time for you to retire? It's mainly up to you. You have a point of how much money you want to invest in the market, want to invest in your 401k, mostly wanting to invest in you and yourself and your family. Because, be that as it may, we all say, once my kid turns 18 and they're out of the house, not my responsibility. You're taking care of that kid as long as that kid is alive. When they become an adult, they still come to you, ask you money, ask for money and things of that nature. And even when you get older, let's say your kids don't have a good job, and it's a thing might you might have to go stay with them or they might have to go stay with you. So always have it to a point to where you have a plan for these things. Mainly for yourself. Shout out to Go Professor. I always talk about the 9 laws of self-government. Law number 3: apply selfishness, because sometimes you have to think about yourself in these cases. You know, when you get ready to retire, how much money you want? You know, then you start looking at the overall of the kids and everything. Because even when it comes to the wife, You literally have to make sure you have enough money for the both of you. You know, in relationships, a lot of people, you know, having this factor of having to meet sometime, and you neglect that you're needing money for your wife or your husband in the relationship, and it's all depending on how you run your relationship or your house. Some people like 50-50, some people pay 100% of the bills in the house. So while the person's paying 100% of the bills in the house, what is the other person doing with their money? Are they investing? That is the best time when a man is paying 100% of the bills. That woman should be taking that money and investing in their future, you know, with him and her. Because if he's ultimately making a sacrifice, then she should be, looking for future gains, by researching this, learning about this stuff. So these are things that your parents should have taught you. And if your parents didn't teach you, guess what? You're grown. You should look into this stuff yourself. You know, like I say, when your parents got older, are your parents to the point of retirement to where they can successfully retire at this age and be comfortable, or they're going to be a greeter at Walmart or something to that extent? It's all up to your parents. You're looking at the path. Are you going to make that same sacrifice? You're going to make that same steps or make sacrifices to where you do better for yourself. And shout out to Big Discussion 76. What's going on with you, Dr. Dunbar? When it comes down to it, a lot of times we have the discussions when it's too late. You know, I should have invested in my 401k when I was younger. This would be good for my retirement. Invest now. You know, people who work gig apps, they have IRAs that you can do with banks and everything and work things out for yourself. But the point of reference is, like I always go back and say, like, who's actually looking at these things and who's actually researching and trying to find these things out, because things are available for us, but we have to know about them by looking and doing the research. When it comes down to it, a lot of people tend to look at things too late. You want to invest in the housing market. You want to start either buying and flipping houses. If you don't know nothing about it, just jump into it because someone tell you how easy it is. You're going to be drowning in it. And when I say drowning, that means you're going to be upside down. You're going to be spending upwards of 50 to $100,000 plus and still not getting things right. Oh man, just buy this old house and fix it up. Sometimes it's better to just tear a house down and start from scratch than to actually just build up on the foundation that exists, because it's so much work you have to put into. By the time you finish, you're going to be just about rebuild the whole house. Now, if it's a brick house, do your research. It's good. As long as the foundation is good on the brick, it's always good to build the inside up. You can put a new roof on there, build the inside up. But, a wood house, termites, things of that nature, just go ahead and bust it down. Like, that's the thing you have to, do your research on. Same thing with the foundation of your finance. You know, what is good for you compared to, the issue at hand for others. Some people might have it to where, hey, I make $2,000 a week. I could sacrifice this much money for this. Then you have others that make $800 a week. You know, I remember my grandmother always talking about a fixed income. She's on a fixed income. Retired on a fixed income. And fixed income, you're making sacrifices for what? Everything is limited on that fixed income when you're making the sacrifices. You know, so when it comes down to it, a lot of people, if you're not putting your money in the right place, you're gonna feel the pinch when you get older. You know, you want to retire early to a point you can't retire early. They're trying to move the retirement age up to 70. I guarantee I'm not trying to work to that long. I'm gonna make pretty much a lot of sacrifices and do a lot of things now to where I can retire early. I'm not trying to make that, push for me to work 60 years, 70 years. No, no. Even me being a young man working, starting at the age of 15, like just going into my older years working, and then you got to look at the point of you working a physical job compared to white collar to blue collar job. It's gonna be a lot of work, strain on people's body. You know, the more I'm getting older, the more I'm looking at getting an office job. Office job wasn't always my thing because I like to be physical and moving around, you know. But hey, considering me getting older, office job don't sound bad. But mainly it's up to you and how you want to live your life. But more or less, like I say, you know the age you should be wanting to retire. You know the age where you're gonna make sacrifices for your life. You should know the age. You should be on point about your finances, knowing that, hey, I want to get to this amount of money and it's good for retirement. Because needless to say, even though you have a point in your head that you're looking at, inflation always play a big part in this. Inflation always play a big part in it. When it comes down to it, overall, hey, needless to say, the people that invested in things back in the 70s, and far as if it's not a house, they kind of hit it. Like, companies have pensions, their pensions wasn't paying out as much. I mean, even when people got life insurance back in the day, they got $10,000 life insurance, was paying on it for so long to the point where, hey, you're not even going to make any money off this life insurance. You know, you got a $10,000 policy paying $5 a month. You know how long it's going to make that $10,000 off a term? Then if you live out the term, let's say you get a whole life, and you had an agent that's properly structured your insurance good, you're going to be upside down in that as well. So like I said, just taking the necessarily small steps, doing the research, learning about, hey, I want to buy me some life insurance. What should I be buying? Who I should be buying it with? What are the questions I need to be asking them? Same thing is for your jobs. I'm getting this job here. What should I be looking forward to with this job? A lot of times people go in and get a job. Do you ever even ask, do they have a 401k? Do you even ever ask, you know, how are your hours? Do you pay for overtime? And, what is your overtime rate? Like, a lot of guys, are they working long hours? You know, are you motivated to, you know, raise people up within the company or within their position? Or are you just letting people work as a secretary for 15 years? Or can they be promoted to a better position? You need to start asking the companies that when you get hired. That's the key thing. These are things that kind of went over with my teachers when I was younger. They were telling me, hey, if you get to a position at your job, are you going to stay at that position forever? These are the things you need to be asking, your job. And I was what, ninth, 10th grade learning this. So, to a position always moving up or making money, or if that's the position you're going to stay in, you know, are you going to stay in that position and make more money, or, gradually move up, or what's the standings with these jobs? But more or less, you know, got to talk about the finances as well. Budget, budget, budget. A lot of people got to have a budget now. Like, start with a budget, writing it down. We have apps that you can use for budget. You have your notes in your phone. I have my calendar, my Google calendar is full of all my bills to a degree, everything that I'm pretty much trying to pay out for the month, all on the calendar. Me and my wife have a family calendar, a family Google account in which we share all the bills, knowing the due dates of all of them. Anything dealing with the kids is all on the family calendar. Trips all on the family calendar. A budget to where me and her are splitting. Is more or less me doing the budget, but just going it over with her. You know, when it comes down to it, a lot of people don't have a budget. They just spend. You know, looking at your check, paying yourself first. A lot of people, they start paying the bills and then they moan and groan because they don't have nothing else, you know, to show. Hey, pay yourself a small amount. You know, Pay these bills, do this. Not necessarily saying walk away without paying your bills, but make it to where you can afford to pay yourself first. You know, stay on top of your bills. Stop using your credit cards as much. Stop spending what you don't have. You know, at the end of the day, you might have to miss a couple of parties. You might have to, miss a couple of outings because you don't have the funds. You know, when it comes down to it, getting into the bare necessities, knowing how much you spend out each month, pretty much tracking it, help your finance. So, needless to say, get a budget, get a budget, get a budget. Start writing stuff down. A lot of people don't even look at their bank statements. Majority of the time, there was only probably once or twice that I found out somebody was using my card. One of my kids was using my card playing games on Google, and they were just spending money like left and right. Every other day was a dollar here, a $5 there, a dollar here, a $5 there. You know, they to a degree they knew it. It was coming off my account. I believe to a degree, but still, with me not even looking at my account and seeing those small transactions coming out, I would have never knew. And it's to a degree you have your card linked to so many things now with your phone, people having the watches, and then you having that wave on your phone, I mean on your card, so you can actually tap the card. So this is a thing that you gotta watch. You gotta always watch and be mindful of this stuff because needless to say, you might not be paying attention to it, you're gonna get taken. So watch over your money. Make sure you're looking at your accounts. Make sure you're looking at your overall budget, your investments, and making sure things are, being paid out and done right. Needless to say, hey, stay in tune with your finance. Make sure you get to a point of when you're ready to retire and have a budget set up that hey, we might need to start investing in this in order for us to retire early or just for us to retire in general. We need to have more money. Most people look at their houses as a great investment, and it is technically. A lot of older people end up selling their home, going into retirement home versus letting the retirement homes take over your finances. That mean they own your house. You know, a lot of times people don't have nobody to trust, so they tend to, just kind of let things fall into place as they do with not taking care of the house, putting it in foreclosure. You know, because if you're not staying in the home as an elderly person, not being able to have somebody that you can, leave the house to that can, keep the house up. I talked about one time, prime example. My brother's friend, his grandmother house was left to him. He had an old house, roof had a hole in it. It was going in through the hardwood. The kitchen, everything was out of date. My brother, encouraged him to just get the house versus him trying to, stay in the condo where he was paying almost, I think, 2,500 or something like that for it. 2,000, 2,500 for a condo. My brother told her, "Hey, make the sacrifice, keep that your grandparents' house in the family because I think the grandmother left the house to him. Ultimately, out of all her kids, she left the house to her grandson. And he looked at it as, man, I should sell it. These people keep calling me, talking about they're gonna give me 3,000 for it, this and that for it. I think it was more or less close to 500,000 when he considered keeping the house and went in and found that the neighborhood, was growing so much. That house was worth way more than they were trying to buy from him. But that's the thing, we're not looking at it. We're looking at the short term versus the long term. Fixing the house up, that house is worth way more than what those people were trying to offer. And got out of his condo, ended up taking the money that he's supposed to pay every month for his mortgage and just started fixing the house up little by little, little by little. First thing he did was fix the roof, then came back in and fixed the hardwood, then start upgrading the kitchen, upgrade the bathrooms. Before you know it, guy had a decent house, and didn't even really have to put no money into it like that. Living out loud, what's going on with you? And a lot of times we don't really look at, our parents' house as being a thing because it was trending back in the day and it looks good back then. It don't look that, you know, good for us nowadays because everybody wants more modern, more marble and, fancy white cabinets and things of that nature. It's up to you. Paint, replacement, changing the knobs, those things can be fixed easily. But buying a whole house and the credit, that takes your time. That takes you building your credit. That takes you having the money and the resources. So it's always a good thing to you if you have a home that's either gifted to you or it's in the family. Take advantage of that. You know. But more or less, I'm about to get ready to jump off of here. Basically, just going back into it, sticking to a budget. If you have a job, don't let the job be your guide. Don't sit there and have the job have you stressed out. You can't, focus, can't live right because the job is taking advantage of a lot of things in your life. You want to be the one that be in control of yourself and be control of your finance. You know, Find a job that you're comfortable with. Find a job that that's suitable, that fits your lifestyle, and you can get up happy. Getting up miserable going to work every day is to a point where you get up and you don't feel pleasant or feel so good. But just getting up and feeling so miserable about going to work, is that really going to be a thing for you? So, needless to say, shout out to everybody coming through. Stick to a budget. Stick to a budget. Once again, like always, you know what I always say when I get off of here? We here and we gone. Peace.